Once upon a time, in a remote city in Germany, Susie entered a famous dance academy to perform in the ballet. The academy is in a large Gothic building filled with the most talented dancers in the world, and the biggest secret in Europe. The large hallways cast shadows of something around the corner. The floorboards creak and hint that someone still wanders the halls after hours. The walls whisper, and they howl warnings to Susie in her fairy tale, now turned nightmare. This is It Records. Welcome, all you creatures of the night, back to the It Records podcast. This is one of your hosts talking to you over the airwaves right now, Matt Johnson.
Is it airwaves anymore, or is it considered something else?
I guess it would still be the airwaves, or the internet highway. Is that what the kids call it today?
I like Internet Highway. I don't know. It has a nice ring to it.
Yeah. So I get.
It also sounded like you're asking a question. You're like, "This is It Records."
Yeah, I just had to check my notes again to make sure the name of the podcast.
Because you have like some.
You got confused on what podcast it was because we made up so many spin-offs.
Yeah, right. I'm backlogged in podcasts.
Yeah, we had like Talking Jersey Shore. We had like Talking.
Oh, that's right.
Other stuff. All the fake. Real spin-offs.
Yeah. Real spin-offs. Mm-hmm. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. And if you didn't pick up from my intro, we did the 1977 horror classic Suspiria, directed by Dario Argento.
You wouldn't understand. It all seems so absurd.
Hey, listen. There they go, right on schedule. The teachers, remember? Can you hear them? They're going away. You hear them? Maybe we can find out where they really go.
A lot of strange things are happening. For example, when I eat at night, Hello? Hello, Frank?
Susie, do you know anything about witches?
Again, because our first recording is lost forever.
That's true. We actually recorded this almost a year ago, right? Around the anniversary of
It was very long ago.
the release of the movie, correct?
Yeah, it was the 40th anniversary, the day of our recording.
February, it would have been. Yeah.
And now we're back.
So, over a year ago. But some audio troubles. Yeah, we're back to redo it. So, even better than it was previously. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it even is more prudent now, I would say, jumping ahead, because there's going to be a remake of this film coming out in a few months, like 3 months or so.
October, right?
Technically November 1st, but yeah, around Halloween.
Those fucking bastards not knowing when Halloween is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So technically it comes out November 1st.
But
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, is it on October 31st at midnight?
Well, maybe. But it's an Amazon production, this remake. So is it going to be in theaters, or is it just going to be released via Amazon? I guess it'll be in theaters because Manchester by the Sea, if you remember that
I was
film.
gonna say that Manchester by the Sea was in theaters.
Yeah, and that was one of the first Amazon films, or at least first to be nominated for an Oscar. Amazon films.
There's been a decent amount of them now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think The Room is another one. Unless I'm
Was it?
Unless I'm misremembering that.
It could be. I don't know.
I'm gonna look it up because I feel like I made it up. Maybe because it's on Amazon. It's on my Amazon watch list.
That's
Which
not,
is,
not
you know,
how it works,
it's pretty easy to confuse the two.
Yeah.
Let's see. Which I also have not seen that movie. And I'm not talking about Tommy
That's
Wiseau's
exactly
The
what I
Room.
thought of.
Yeah, we're talking about.
I was like, that can't be what he means.
I always do it too.
Now there's another. There's Room,
Ooh,
which came out in
talk about a haunting
2015,
film.
directed by Lenny Abrahamson.
Mm-hmm. And then you have The Room.
Completely opposite of what I'm thinking of.
It is not an Amazon movie. It's not an Amazon movie,
No.
and also not the movie again. Not directed by Tommy Wiseau, which is a great movie.
It is. It is. But we can circle back to that remake, I guess, later and kind of give people the rundown of what Suspiria is if you aren't a big horror fan, which I'm guessing you might be if you're listening to a horror podcast. But it came out in 1977. It's an Italian film directed by Dario Argento. And it's part of a trilogy that he made called The Three Mothers. And it follows Susie, an American ballet dancer who goes to a dance academy in Germany, where some things seem a little bit off just from the get-go. Something doesn't seem right about this dance academy, and people are being picked off one by one. It's essentially Suspiria in a nutshell. Based off...
Sound like you said belly dancer, but I feel like you meant ballet dancer.
If I said belly dancer, I am sorry. She's a ballet dancer, not a belly dancer. She's a ballerina. That was a dumb, weird tangent. I'm not going to ask that question. It was about ballets, but...
Ask it. Ask it.
Well, it's like, she's a ballerina, is what I wanted to say. But I'm like, when are you a ballerina? Like, if you're training to become a ballerina, are you a ballerina? Or are you just like a dancer who's training in the ballet? When do you become a ballerina?
I used to do ballet.
I'm
I'm just kidding. I don't really know.
I
I did ballet, but and they called us ballerinas, but I felt like they were saying that to be nice because we were like
Okay.
6. So I don't actually know. I think you're just a ballerina, if you want to be.
Yeah,
I think that's accurate because that's just how I assumed it too. There's
was
no
overthinking
levels. Yeah, it's not degrees of black belt or something and like karate.
However,
You know,
if you play the sugar plum
there's
fairy
this-
and the nutcracker, I feel like you've made it then.
Yeah, like that's a ballerina. But like if I'm just like hanging out, I'm to pull off some ballet moves. Would you call me a ballerina?
are you doing it like wholeheartedly or are you mocking them?
With all my heart,
Yeah, you
I
can
want
be
to
a
perfect
ballerina.
this dance.
Then you're
why
a
not?
ballerina.
Oh man, that just made my day. Well, perfect. I'm glad we settled that, at least on the podcast. Okay, but diving back into Suspiria, it's loosely based off of two things. One, it's these essays that were written by, I believe Thomas de Quincey is his name, and that it was also titled The Three Mothers. Yes, Thomas de Quincey's 1845 essays. And Suspiria is based off of Suspiria de Profundis, or Sighs from the Depth. The other two are Mother of Tears, which is the movie called Mother of Tears that Dario Argento did, and Inferno by Dario Argento is Mother of Darkness. That's your loose trilogy.
A lot of loose trilogies around that time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think these other two, because
Yeah.
personally I hadn't heard of them, and I definitely, obviously, haven't watched them. I don't think either of them seem to have made the impact that Suspiria has. I had no idea
That's
there
true.
was a trilogy of any kind. And yeah, it looks like Inferno was only 3 years after Suspiria, and then Mother of Tears was already 11 years ago. Had no idea.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like the essay apparently was like the three main witches or that controlled Europe or something like that. And there was a Mother of Tears, Darkness, and Sighs. And so he wanted to make 3 horror films. And I would also agree Suspiria is probably the most recognized of the 3, the better of the 3, but I listened to an interview which I can play on the podcast of Argento. And he says Suspiria is not his best film. And he doesn't believe it's his best work. He believes Inferno is.
Those are fighting words.
Yeah, Inferno or what is it? Profundus Luso? Deep Red.
Yeah, Deep Red.
Yeah, one of
Yeah,
those two
that's.
things
I
is
feel like
best.
that's the one. Okay, I could give him Deep Red because like that's the one that like a lot of people like.
Mm-hmm.
Suspiria, I feel like is like, for me, it was like the first Argento film I saw, so like it set the standard super fucking high, and like nothing really came close to that for me. But the Deep Red was close, and there were a couple other great ones, but for me, like Suspiria, like hit all the right marks for what I expected, and it exceeded my expectations for a crazy movie.
No, I agree. It was the first Argento film that I saw as well, and it does set a high bar for several reasons, as it's regarded as one of the best horror films of all times, and like whatever list you'll read, because of the use of, I feel like, color and the soundtrack are huge in this movie. They're like the first things that stand out to you.
I mean, just the color alone is like so vibrant and like in your face every scene that it sets it apart a lot from other movies that I've seen, because it's so, because like usually in movies they try and like hide it, but this movie like they like it's like a focus of making it so obvious.
Yeah, it was it was the final film to be cut in Technicolor and be produced. And so it's got that really vibrant colors, Technicolor has, like Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind, those types of colors, and you didn't really see them in horror so much as like fantasy, if you will. And this film does try to conjure up that supernatural element with that color. And Argento said he wanted to use Technicolor because no one had used it to show subdued shades. They had only used it for like bright, vibrant colors like Wizard of Oz, Yellow Brick Road, Emerald City, where he wanted to take those colors and show like the darker side, the subdued side in a horror movie.
I'm glad he did.
Yeah. Because a lot of those shots, even though there's some very grisly death scenes, they seem very framed and staged, almost like a painting. A lot of them, like every shot, just the color and the framing, and like the building choice, the set choices, were all very deliberate. A very deliberate vision is what Argento was going for.
There's like certain scenes in a lot of Argento films that like that are very dramatic. One specifically in Suspiria is the one where the girl falls through the window and she's hung by like, I guess, not the extension cord, but like a cord from a light.
Yeah.
And then I was like so shocked the first time I saw it because I was like, how the hell did that how did he even do that? There's always like that scene that stands out in a Argento film, and like there's like another one where like a guy gets hit by a train, and I can't remember which one it is, and it's also like kind of like the same kind of like motion where like it zooms in, and then like you just see like the impact like so close, and then you're like, wait, well, how the fuck did he do that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He a really good job of like that disorienting is maybe what that is, where like he might lull you into a sense of like security or something, and then something just snaps. And a lot of that is also owed to the score, I think, of this film, when that kind of adds that second layer of eeriness. But to expound upon that point, I read an interesting quote that somebody called this movie the inverse of Disney, is what he was going for, because he like he wanted to make that Technicolor like fairy tale type vibe, but like, you know, in a horror film. So they call it the inverse of Disney based on that, as well as the plot. It's basically, you know, this woman is going off into a new territory, which is similar to a horror film, a foreign territory, and she meets these people along the way that are supposed to help her in getting her ultimate goal. And he wanted to do that, he said, but also he wanted to make those people seem antagonistic to Susie as much as possible. So like, even though they might help her, they are also like they would make her slip up. So I thought the inverse of Disney was a good label for Suspiria.
I never heard that before.
Having heard that, that makes sense. Like when I think of Madame Blanc in particular, I mean, by every sense of the word, she's friendly. You know, she's nice, she's welcoming, but nevertheless, Susie gets that unsettling, like, eerie feeling from her, you know, and that only continues to grow as the film progresses. So that's really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she could sort of be seen like the white witch or whatever, because her name is Blanc, which is white, and it's supposed to seem as like the guiding presence. But yeah, again, as you said, you get that sort of eerie feeling that, you know, I don't know if I should trust you, even though you seem to be caring about me. Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of like weird interactions in this movie that I didn't really pick up on into this most recent viewing, especially when my girlfriend Courtney pointed out that like there was like some BuzzFeed article about Suspiria because of the remake coming out, that like the original was like Dario Argento wanted it like feature children, and his dad who produced the movie was like, no, like, do you want your movie to get like an NC-17 or an X rating, I guess back then, like no one will go see your movie like if kids are being killed. So he raised the age to like 20-year-olds, but he kept like the mentality of children still prevalent in the plot, which is like why like doorknobs are like really high and like in the middle of like the door, or they're just like how the scene that stands out to me about how it rings true is like when Susie is like drugged to fall asleep, and then like her friend is like trying to count the footsteps, like where are the adults going, and then like they're so fascinated about like where they're going at night. Like if they were truly adults, like they wouldn't like fucking care, they wouldn't do anything. Like I feel like only kids like wild imaginations would like come up with like this, like where do they go, like what are they doing.
Yeah, that's a good point.
They are up to something, but
Right, yeah, clearly. Yeah, there was one thing I wanted to bring up about the style I thought was interesting that I noticed beyond the color and the soundtrack by Goblin, which is fantastic, and every time I watch the movie I listen to that soundtrack.
It's so good.
Again. Yeah. But was like the theme of sight and like mirror images or whatever, like the metaphor of going to find out more things, looking deeper, would lead to like something bad happening to the person, or literally like looking in a mirror would like foreshadow something evil was going to happen. Where the first death scene, we know she's looking out the window, and she sees those eyes looking back at her, and then she's killed. And that was a prevailing theme of like, don't go looking for answers, sort of a thing. don't go looking for any deeper meaning. What you see is what's actually happening. Don't go looking for deeper secrets within us. So I thought that was an interesting plot choice and thematic use of the camera.
There's a lot of death by like smashing people's faces through windows in Dario Argento's movies.
Yeah.
Like even though they don't necessarily die that way, I just feel like he always drags like a woman, especially through like a window. I don't know why, but he just does.
Mm-hmm. It's a staple of Argento.
It kind of is. Mm-hmm. So, side note, do you think the remake is too long? Because this movie is only an hour and a half, and isn't the remake going to be 3 hours?
The last I checked, I thought it was 3 hours. I'll double check that right now, but yeah, I think that would be too long.
Why? Why are they doing that? Like,
it's going to be a lot more dialogue heavy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's 2.5 hours.
Still, though, that's really long, especially for a horror film. Like, The Shining is like really the only one that's like really good and that long.
Yeah, and Argento, I know, was pissed about hearing about the remake.
I'm sure he is.
Like, I think I have the quote right here, actually, is what he said. The film had a specific mood. Either you do it exactly the same way, in which case it's not a remake, it's a copy, which is pointless. Or you can change things and make another movie.
Damn.
In that case, why even call it Suspiria?
Dario has spoken.
So he's not happy about it.
He's throwing some shade for sure.
I mean, I get it.
And that's like my initial thoughts. I get it too. For me, like, I'm not like the biggest fans of remakes, but if it's not like a great film and you remake it, like, that's fine, whatever. And it could be better. Some remakes could be better. But when you take, like, arguably one of the better horror movies ever made, and it's like really stylistic, you better for sure like know what you're doing, because I mean, maybe you'll make back your money because people want to go see it, but I don't know why remake a classic.
It's really easy to shit on remakes, but I do like a lot of remakes, and I don't even mind them remaking a great movie, because I like some like remakes of great movies that aren't as great as the original, and I mean sometimes it could be better, but that's not too frequent. But it's nice to get it for like people who aren't savvy in movies. Like, they're just like see whatever they think looks cool, and it kind of brings it to like a whole new generation of fans, which I think is nice. But the thing that worries me the most is the lead actress, because I think Dakota Johnson, I think her name is. I haven't seen her in anything, but I just feel like based off of like 50 Shades of Grey and like how terrible they are, never seen it, but I don't think they're quality movies. They just make a lot of money, and her SNL like monologue is awful. I feel like it's not gonna be good unless she's like not talking, but then it's a 2.5 hour movie, so she has to be talking. Right.
And that's my thing with it's 2.5 hours, and I felt like the first one, it's a lot about atmosphere. This film, like, it's a very atmospheric film, and like supposed to get under your skin. It's very stylistic. That might wear some people thin if it's 2.5 hours. And from the teaser trailer I watched, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of dialogue. It seemed like a lot of brooding scenes of like angst and anxiety, which might wear thin at 2.5 hours. Again, that's just from the teaser trailer. But I do love Tilda Swinton. I do love Chloe Grace Moretz. They're in it, and then Tom York is doing the soundtrack. So they're trying. I don't know.
I think Jessica Harper is in she has some sort of role in this movie too.
Yeah, I think I heard that. I think she's making a cameo. And that's That's Susie from the
That's
original.
cool.
Okay.
The main actress. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, and speaking of cameos, Dario Argento made a cameo in the 1977 version of Suspiria.
Yeah, where?
It's
Where?
it's not his face. It's his hand. He's I believe it's the first killer when he kills Pam. It's like he's the person who kills Pam. That's him. Yeah, no.
Oh. That's kind of
Yeah,
underwhelming.
it's not
but
actually his
okay.
face or anything.
He's not like Alfred Hitchcock where you just see like, oh, there he is.
Yeah, no. Not like that. But two notes of trivia then about the actors and actresses. The Jessica Harper who played Susie turned down a role in Annie Hall with Woody Allen to be in Suspiria. So right on to that choice. Even though Annie Hall's a good movie, like, awesome.
I mean, yeah. It wouldn't have been bad, you know.
As far as we
Good for
know,
her.
Dario Argento is less of a weirdo than fucking Woody Allen.
As far as we know, yeah.
That's true.
Currently.
As much as I love Woody Allen movies, he's a fucking weirdo and has done pretty terrible things. And Dario Argento looks like a weirdo.
Makes weird movies.
Makes weird movies, but as far as I know, he's alright.
He's an okay guy.
He does have that going.
His daughter is a little weird. I don't know, it's weird. He kind of sexualizes his daughter in a weird way in some of his movies. Probably to make money, but I digress.
Who's his daughter?
Asia,
Okay.
who was dating,
It's his wife.
oh my god, what's his name? The chef that died. Yeah, they were dating
Anthony Bourdain.
when,
Oh.
Wow.
before he passed away. Which I was like, what?
Jeez.
And he had such great shows. I liked his show a lot. On CNN for random reasons. What a random network to have a show, but it was great.
Mm-hmm. Alright. Well, before we wrap it up with our Defender Destroys, I was just going to say the co-writer of the film deserves some credit. We said Argento, he wrote and directed it, but Daria Nicolodia? Am I pronouncing that right?
Nickelodeon?
Yeah, Nickelodeon. I think it's, or Nickelodeon. Also co-wrote it and co-wrote 5 other films with Argento. Was going to be the lead in this film before Jessica Harper. So, also had a hand in making Suspiria. Yeah. And the actors and actresses, several of them spoke different languages. Some were Italian, some were German, some were English. That's crazy to me. I mean, it explains some of like the reactions in the scenes that like they really don't know what they're saying. They're just like going off of what the script says. So,
because they weren't like a trick that Dario Argento did in a lot of his movies is that he didn't record audio like on set, or like because they shot on location and like he usually went to like really noisy places because it was cheaper to film there, and so like they would do the scene and everything and film it, but then they would like record the dialogue later on.
Yeah.
like in the sound booth or whatever.
That's really interesting.
So like everything is like dubbed.
Yeah. Well, I think with that we can mosey on into Defend or Destroy if y'all are ready for it.
I don't know if you are.
Oh, and I'm just gonna, while we do this, I'm gonna play out underneath us the soundtrack to this movie, because I know we briefly mentioned it, but I feel like it needs to be heard in podcast form to do it justice, so you can hear it.
But we can't. Oh!
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the magic of editing.
All right, who wants to take it first?
I will.
Oh.
All right.
So I unmistakably love this movie. I find all the elements, such as, it being less plot driven and dialogue heavy. Instead, it's more visual. It's a simple plot. I've read it being quoted as an artistic nightmare come to life, and I really like that description. And I agree with it. And I think that the exaggerated use of Technicolor really helps drive that home. And that, to me, makes it one of the most expressive horror movies I've ever seen. And the way the director tells the story through his use of that color, in some ways, it says more than dialogue ever could. And I would recommend this movie to literally anybody. And that's all I have to say.
I destroy this movie. I think it's Euro trash. It's just art house film critics. They love it. No, I'm one of them, I guess. I love this movie. I defend it. Recommend it to everybody. I would echo a lot of things Lindsay said. I really liked it because it was so artistic and stylish. Like the colors and the soundtrack versus the sound in general, just non-diegetic and diegetic. You can never really tell if it's in the movie or if they placed it like as a soundtrack, because you don't really know. There's like whispering going on. It was a very tense, atmospheric film, and I thought it was beautifully shot and it holds up as one of the greater horror movies. It's actually probably my favorite, if not in like the top 3 for me ever horror films. So I defend it. Top 3. Whatever.
That's really random. Not top 10 or top 5, top 3.
Top 3.
It's my top. It's my top 2.
Yeah.
I defended. I made it pretty obvious from the beginning. I mean, I don't even know what I could say about it or that it hasn't been said, but I even think for like a stylistic movie and how great it's shot, it doesn't come off as like an art house movie to me. So I feel like it's very accessible through a lot of people, even though it's like it doesn't make sense sometimes because there's a lot of weird shit going on. But I think there's like enough there because it's short. It's an hour and a half. It's very pretty to look at. There's crazy shit going on. It keeps your attention pretty much a lot on the whole way because of how all that together with like the weird atmosphere and the colors and the fucking horror. There's a lot there. So I think like a lot of people could enjoy this movie.
Alright then. That concludes this week of the It Records podcast. Thank you for tuning in for this week's Suspiria 1977. Be sure to check out, if you enjoyed this, the remake coming out, because I definitely know I will be checking it out and voicing my opinions if I like it or not. But until the next time, we're on Facebook, Twitter. We have our website. Get back to us. Let us know what you think of the podcast or what episodes you'd like us to do. We'll be getting blog posts out to you real soon, because we're writers over here. But until next time, I'm Matt Johnson, and I remain in the shadows.
Come on, Lindsay, what do you got?
I'm Lindsay Clark. Bye.
Short, sweet, I like it. I'm Peter Hansen. I got nothing for you today.